Now bamboos, like the one behind me here, this Phyllostachus, are pretty difficult to dig up, but in this video I'm going to show you how easy it is to remove a bamboo and be left with an open view like this. Now this bamboo here is Phyllostachus parvifolia. It is a relatively clump forming bamboo, but it will run because it's a Phyllostachus, and it's been quite well behaved. It's been in this spot for 9-10 years, and it covers an area probably about 2.5 up to 3 meters wide by about a meter going back, so it's not gone completely everywhere. But I want to move it from here. I planted it here originally because I wanted this to be like a jungle part of the garden, starting from here, a bit wild. But I realised I want to open up this area and have bamboo further down the garden towards the field. Luckily, on two sides I had sleepers going down there and there. I've removed the sleepers. You can still see here we've got the plastic that I had on the sleeper and how the bamboo's actually grown through it and tried to push through, but it's not made it through the wood. But you can see I've taken up absolutely loads of these runners, and they're growing all the way around there as well, but they've not gone through and gone down and into my arid bed over here. So they're not super deep runners. You know, the first 30 centimeters or so is where most of the action is, and they rarely go deeper than that. So I've got two sides pretty much sorted. I just need to dig here between the big bootia palm and the bamboo, and then behind where the other princeps palms and the grasses are and the tetrapanax. So I'm going to dig around this area. I'm going to show you how to do it. So the tools I'm going to use are my root slayer spade. Hopefully that'll be enough. Also, I could use my reciprocating saw, a general saw that I don't mind damaging, and a jet wash pressure washer, which can remove a lot of the soil so I can see where to use the saw to get through the roots. But to begin with, what I'm going to do is take away a few of these canes just so I can get in there, and then I'm going to start digging around and see how far this bamboo has travelled. So let's get to it. Starting with the edges, taking out what I can around the bootia, using that root slayer, trying to get through some of that rhizome at the front edge, which was running right across several meters, and then basically trying to dig all the way around it, trying to make a little ditch all the way around so we can see how far the roots have travelled. Having a little work at the back there, and then having a little rest, and then on to the next stage. So I've dug all around it now to make sure that I've got any runners or parts I didn't see. So I've gone down with a spade, it's about 30 centimeters or so, dug out some of the soil all the way around the back there as well, which is the easy part. That means I know how far the bamboo's gone. You can see around here, probably clearer where I've done that. But the hard part is actually taking this out, and obviously I can't take it out as one massive 3 by 1 meter chunk. I'm gonna have to cut through this, and that's where it gets tricky because it's extremely tough to get through the rhizome. The root slayer will help, but I may need to resort to a saw. We'll see how we get on. It's quite a warm day as well, so not the ideal conditions for doing this. I do want to keep some of this bamboo, so I don't want to completely chop it down. So let's do the hard bit now and actually divide this and remove the bamboo. And it's back to it with the root slayer, getting some decent clumps away with some decent tall canes. But as I continued hacking away and trying to slice through the rhizome, which was not an easy job at all, to be honest, I realised that actually the full canes were difficult and sort of impeded my progress. So I did get a few nice big clumps. But after that, I decided what I needed to do really was to actually dig or cut back the culms, the canes, just so I could get in there easier. So I cut back them half height. Yes, it meant I don't have that big impact if I'm replanting the culms, these clumps, but I thought I need to do this really just so I can get in there and make it easier to dig them up. And then obviously removing all that foliage had to go somewhere, so all went to the recycling centre. And then I got on with the job of dividing the bamboo. So I've cleared a lot of that bamboo, cut up some big chunks that I've left at full height, which I'll pot up. And because there's so much, cut down half the height of the rest. So when I dig it up, it's not in that much shock and it should regrow when I pot it up. Like I said, I kept a couple big just for instant impact where I replant it, but the rest of it, it's best really to cut it half height and let it grow from the roots rather than trying to keep all that luscious growth at the top without much roots underneath. So that's why I've cut it back, and we can see what we're dealing with. Opened up the area already. I've still got the full roots and half the height to dig up and remove. This is pretty thirsty work in this hot sun, so it's time for a drink, a little bit of a rest before we get back to digging up the bamboo. I've had my lunch and I've actually cut back the bamboo. I've decided to do this so that it's easier to actually divide it and cut it up, because with the canes there at full height, it's really hard to get in and get your spade in between a few of them. Just so much foliage in the way. So I've cut them all back, and I will now just cut away, hack at this in chunks like I've done with this bit, and section by section we'll clear out this bamboo from this area. You can see I'm getting there now, down to less than half of it, about a third of it left, but the hardest bit, because this is the oldest bit, most congested bit. I've dug around, you can see how shallow the roots are, really only sort of 30-40 centimetres deep, and all the bits I've dug up, I've had to do in little bits really. There's a big pile of it over there. So we'll carry on and get through the rest of it, hopefully, before the end of the day. And that's the bamboo all dug up. The last bit pretty much was the root ball of the original plant that was planted here. Big wedge, about 60 centimetres by 60 centimetres, that I just levered up and pulled out of the ground. I'm going to check over the ground here. I'm 99% certain I've got all the roots out, because they are pretty shallow. It's very dry under there, which has made it easier, to be honest, to get all this out. Obviously I've got all this bamboo to get rid of, so that'll be going to the recycling centre, and then I'm left with a big area that I can fill with some nice new topsoil and manure, cultivate this area. Maybe not manure actually, because I'm probably going to plant some arid plants in here, so probably more like some gravel. And then we can move on to the next stage of the paths in this area.